Heyo, what's going on, everybody? It is episode number 193 of the Audible Farm Podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is my favorite coffee. It's roasted right here in Iowa, and it's pretty much the only coffee I drink. They'll ship the beans directly to my house. All I gotta do is grind them up and French press them, and I have delicious, amazing coffee to drink in the morning. Like I said, it's my favorite coffee. I've been letting my friends try my Couchtown, and after they try some, I say, guess what? You got to go buy your own, because I'm not sharing anymore with you. So they go out and get their own Couchtown, and I've heard a lot of people say they don't normally drink their coffee black, but I asked them to at least try it, and they try it, and they say they love it. So that's a win for me as far as I'm concerned. They love the coffee, and I love Couchtown. So if you want to check out Couchtown, go to couchtowncoffee.com. Find a coffee you like, make an order, and when you do, Couchtown will give you 20% off. Why? Because Couchtown is that awesome. Thanks, Couchtown. This week, I am sitting down with Steve Shettler. Steve works for KBOE, which is a radio station in southeastern Iowa, but you can listen to it online if you'd like to. And he has something on his show that makes me smile so much. He has the Country Artist of the Week, the Iowa Country Artist of the Week, every Friday. Let me see here. I got it written down in my notes. It is 11:30 a.m. on Fridays, and not only can you listen on KBOE, but you can check out his Facebook page. He does live streaming there, and while there's commercials and other things going on, he gets to have some other fun little conversations and ends with the musicians that come and visit him. And so, some people that have been on this podcast have been on there. A lot of people that have not been on this podcast have been on his show. So it goes to show you how much music is actually being made in Iowa. We talk about his show. We talk about his transition to radio and what got him started with radio. And, we find out later that Steve's also a musician. Then we find out even later that Steve was pretty much the first ring announcer for Impact Pro Wrestling, which I've seen hundreds of Impact Pro Wrestling shows in my day. So it's kind of wild. It's like he's got this trifecta of awesomeness going on, all while being a self-professed person that doesn't necessarily talk too much or didn't get to as a kid. He's a little bit, he keeps to himself, but he's out there making all this stuff, and he's just supporting the music scene in such a fantastic way. Like I said, he was in a band beforehand, and he's got his awesome radio show that plays musicians from Iowa. It's just amazing. You guys will love this interview. This is the first time I've ever sat down and talked with Steve, which kind of blows my mind also, knowing that we've probably been in the same building a handful of times for some professional wrestling events. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I had a great time sitting down talking with him. It's episode 193 with Steve Shettler.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
I'm sitting down with Steve Shettler. I think the first way I found you or somehow saw you online was maybe some artists around my area were on a radio show down in southeastern Iowa, correct?
Correct.
And
yeah.
That's kind of a jaunt for us up here. What so I figured out you had this radio show, you're featuring country artists, and then the more I looked into it, I realized you're a radio DJ there. You've got a lot going on in that area. So let's start all the way back at the beginning. Did you go to college for this? Is this something you were just like, I'm going to be the radio guy, or how did all that work out?
It's kind of a funny story because growing up, I was a really quiet kid. My sister did all the talking for me when I was a kid, so I didn't say a whole lot. I was an introvert. And I went to college, didn't know what I was going to be doing the first couple of years. Went to Indian Hills in Ottumwa, and as I like to say, I majored in playing video games in my dorm room and not going to class. So it got to the end of those 2 years, and there's a guy from my hometown of Sigourney, Iowa, that had gone to a radio school here in Iowa, and I thought that sounded pretty interesting. I mean, it didn't make any sense because I was a guy that didn't say a whole lot, but I thought it sounded interesting, and I ended up going to the same school that he did, which was in Davenport, Iowa at the time. It's not there anymore. Called AIC, American Institute of Commerce. It offered kind of a variety of, it's kind of like AIB in Des Moines, if you're familiar with that. It offers a lot of business and those types of classes, but it also happened to offer a radio program as well. So it was a 1-year program, and I jumped in, and it just fit like a glove.
That's awesome. I'm not sure AIB is even around anymore.
Okay, it might not be.
Yeah, but I do understand the comparison. So yeah, I mean, that's really cool. It's kind of crazy that you chose to get into radio, like you said, not having been someone that spoke so much.
I didn't do speech class or anything like that in high school. I did football and basketball, and then I went home.
So, I mean, let's just break this down. So I feel like a lot of people that have podcasts, or a lot of people that are radio personalities, are people that are going to be kind of loud anyways, you know? So like, I grew up, I was pretty loud, you know, person. And then I kind of tapered off in my later 20s, but then boom, podcasts, and I'm back to talking to everyone.
Yeah.
It's just kind of mind blowing. Did it work out all right? Did you fit in well when you first started getting on the air places?
You know, I'm a person that likes to stick with things. So, my current job, I've been at coming up on 27 years. I've been at KBOE.
Whoa. Whoa.
I only had one previous full-time job before that for about a year and a half. But once I got hooked up with KBOE, I've been there ever since. So yeah, I think I fit in there.
It makes me think, recently I saw you post online a picture of you in like the 90s. That was like one of your first promo pictures or something. It made me smile. What was the story with that?
They had done it was called like a sports guide, and it had all the schedules for all the sports season in Fairfield, Iowa, where I was at. So it was just kind of a promo picture with saying, you know, to listen to me in the afternoons at the time. And of course, I actually had hair then. It was dark, and it was kind of a mullet type of thing going on. So yeah, everybody got a kick out of it.
that was a good one. I don't know. When I saw that online, I was just like, oh, this guy likes to have fun. I should probably bring him on the podcast.
It doesn't matter to me if you're laughing at me. I'll laugh right with you.
Fun-loving guy, you know, and that's one of the things that I feel like is kind of crazy about like what you're doing and what I'm doing. It's slightly similar, but it's also quite different because you have, I mean, you're going over the airwaves on a radio station, so you kind of have to, you're a little bit more beholden to FCC regulations and things like that than I am. But I mean, like, I'm not saying this isn't a job to me, but what you're doing is your job. You're going out and finding these people to come in every single week to be a country artist of the week, and I don't know how you can find new people every week.
Well, I started the Iowa Country Artist of the Week segment here probably about 4.5 years ago, if I remember right.
Wow.
And because I've been, like I said, I've been at KBOE nearly 27 years. And for the majority of that time, for some reason, it didn't click with me that using Iowa artists could improve our radio station, could bring listeners in and bring other people in that aren't necessarily interested at KBOE. And I took a little bit of a sabbatical from doing the on-air stuff. I was a full-time salesperson for the radio station for a bit. So when I came back on, that was one of the things that just clicked in my mind, is like, need to start focusing on Iowa. And so that was a segment I wanted to do. I thought in my mind, like you said, how in the world am I going to fill this every week? I'm probably going to be just rotating like 4 or 5 artists every week, and it might burn out pretty quick. But little did I know, and soon to find out, that there is a lot of Iowa country musicians in the state of Iowa. And now I'm going, my rule is I don't let anybody on more than every 6 months.
I saw that, which is also like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're, like, it makes sense though. Let me just say, from my personal point of view, like, I've had duplicate guests on before, and I've got a few that I call like my bailout guests, where it's just like, if I need someone, I can bring them in. Or I have like a solo episode, which when you have a guest driven segment and you do a solo one, it's so boring. Like, no, people say they enjoy it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But when you bring those duplicate guests in over and over again, they don't always get good listenership.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like you said, people can kind of get burned out on listening to the same people talk about the same stuff over and over again. But kudos to you for actually making like a rule to yourself where it's like every 6 months, please try your best to adhere to this,
Yes.
and people are doing it.
Yes. Yep. It's kind of self-policing. Everybody knows when they were in last. So, it has worked out well.
That's so wild. So who was your first guest? Do you remember?
Yes. The very first guest I had, and actually it was kind of a thing to do each year, was Tyler Richton and the High Bank Boys were my very first guest. And then for, I think, the next 2 years after that, they were the first guest of the year, because I started this right after the first of the year. So they were first, and then they were first on the next 2 years preceding that. So
that's really cool.
Unfortunately, that came to an end during COVID and all that stuff. But they will be coming back into the studio here next week, actually.
How did you end up making it through COVID then? Did you do remote interviews or?
Nah, it kind of shut everything down for a while during COVID. Probably in March of that year till about September, we had shut down the studios to everybody in the public. But then in that fall, we picked it up again for a few months. Then COVID kind of kicked back in during the winter months. And then it came back in the spring of 2021, and has been steady ever since.
Yeah. It's so weird because I feel like during COVID would have been a great time to actually like try to promote some people, but it's that double-edged sword of you can't really do it.
If I wasn't such an old guy, I probably would have tried doing the Skype thing.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in my ways.
It works kind of, but also like you on your show have people perform songs.
Yes.
Which is doable over a radio station, which, doesn't have any lagging and doesn't have any buffering and et cetera. So like to be able to do it over Skype, I feel like would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah. You don't have that in-person connection that you do. And it kind of, the whole flow of the show is in person. So yeah, it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, I mean it is pretty tough like to do Skype interviews, and the only reason I end up like usually doing them is because it's proximity, and I don't have the disposable income, especially now, to drive to go see everyone. I mean fuel is insane. Gas. Whoo! It's getting steep out there, but yeah, it's not easy to do the Skype interviews because, like you said, it's unfortunate. It doesn't feel as personable. Sometimes you can kind of get along, but sometimes like technology almost dictates the conversation instead of just having a nice conversation with somebody. Because I don't know. I guess like from my personal experience, I feel like if you're talking to somebody over Skype, you almost have to have that business sense of like, when I'm done talking, I'll sit and I'll look, and then you'll pause for 2 seconds, and then you'll talk, and then that whole thing. So probably
we need to make like visual cues to each other when to talk.
Oh my gosh. Now we're getting into the whole, I work digitally. So it's, there's certain things like you got to raise your hand in meetings and things. It's a whole thing. It works, but holy moly, it does feel impersonable. But that's like the other crazy thing is you get people to actually willing to come down there. And I said, I've known a lot of people from my area, which is north central Iowa, who have been down in your direction, which is, it's got to feel good for you, and it's also got to feel good for them because they're getting promotion in an area they normally wouldn't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've had people from basically every corner of the state make the drive to Oskaloosa to be on. I had like Randy Burke. He's from Atlantic, Iowa, so he had quite the drive for him not too long ago. I've had some artists from up around the Waterloo and Bellevue area, which is up on the Mississippi River. They made like 3-hour trips to come be on the radio for a half an hour, which I feel kind of guilty about doing that sometimes, but I'm not making them do it either. They're willingly making that drive to come be on the radio, and it's always a lot of fun. and I think they get a kick out of it.
Well, I think you're doing a really good job because I've listened in. Like you said, what you're doing is I know who's on there every week, and I hate to just be the guy that admits it outright here on the podcast. But when my friends are on, I definitely listen.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Which is you're doing exactly what you said. You're bringing in listenership from outside, and now we're all aware that you exist and what you're doing and your radio station.
Yes.
Which
so it's a two-way street there because KBOE and myself are getting promotion while the artists are getting promoted as well, just in different areas.
So, I mean, like, this is for anybody that's out there that's listening that's a musician. If you don't know this exists and you're a country artist, this guy might be one of your new best friends this year. So it could very well be worth hitting him up.
It's a lot of fun because, something like that, I've been able to be the first radio station to break a lot of these artists and play their studio stuff on the air for the very first time, which is a big thrill for them, and it's a big thrill for me to be able to do it because that's going to put me in their memories forever.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you're doing a great job on social media. I mean, even promoting the artists. You make regular posts. You feature the artists. You tag their Facebook pages. I mean, you're doing all of the stuff right as far as I can tell, because when I scroll through, it's just like, oh, you had this person on this week, and here's a picture of him, and here's the video of it, and I mean, it's all right there. It's all housed there very nicely, and you're doing a great job of promoting the people. So I think it's I feel like it's very beneficial for everyone involved. And speaking of promoting, I do want to also let's see what we got here. The Buzz Cut. I just recently saw that on your social media. That's something you're doing on KBOE. Let's talk about that. What is the Buzz Cut?
So before we get into that, the Buzz Cut was actually preceded by a long-time program called the New Music Challenge, which pitted two songs and two artists against each other every weekday on KBOE, and then voting would determine who would move on each day. Now, way back when, it used to be just simply phone voting, taking calls on the phones and calculating the votes that way. Then it increased to, when social media became a thing, we moved it to Facebook and started voting on Facebook. But it was a great thing, but it was also the downfall because of bot votes. And when I say bot votes, I mean BOT, fake votes coming in. Because whoever and however that works, I don't know. I think you have to pay some weird place on the internet, and then you unleash the bots to vote on your behalf or on whoever's behalf. And so that totally ruined the whole concept of the New Music Challenge. So I did away with that about a year ago because I had been doing tournaments. I did a Battle for Iowa tournament for 3 years. Did like year-end voting for awards for the state of Iowa and for independent country artists.
That is cool.
But it got ruined because of these stupid fake votes.
It's so horrible.
Yeah, it's such an easy concept, but too easy, I guess, to get fake votes.
Yeah.
So
when you had said you initially took phone-ins and then tallied them up that way, I was like, well, that just seems like it would take forever,
Yeah, and see, to entice people to vote, I would also have a daily prize, whether that was a CD or tickets to something.
Cool.
So it would, if people weren't all that interested in the songs themselves, they were still interested in winning the prize.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
But of course, CDs now, nobody wants CDs anymore. And so that was kind of always the easy giveaway. It was easy to have a CD on hand to give away. So when CDs kind of bit the dust, that took away a lot of my ability to give away stuff every single day. But anyway, so the New Music Challenge preceded the Buzz Cut, which started about a year ago. And the Buzz Cut is simply what it says. It's a new song that's coming out to country radio that's creating a buzz, creating some excitement, and I can feature that on the air twice a day on KBOE each weekday at 10:30 in the morning, and then our afternoon guy replays it at about 3:15. And then, of course, I tie in the social media aspect of it as well to give it some extra bang.
Mm-hmm. So are those just Iowa artists that you're doing these buzz cuts for? Or is it any country artist?
It's open to anybody. It could be Luke Combs. It could be Jesse Wilson here in Iowa,
Oh, nice. Yeah. Hey, I'm wearing the Jesse Wilson hat.
Anybody in between.
Yeah, I
So
think I saw Adam Whitehead recently was on there, right?
Yes. Yep, just had him on there today with his new one. So he's got a new song that's coming out on Friday, and wanted to give that a little hype going into that. So
Nice.
yeah, you can use it to, just shine the spotlight on whoever you want, really. Because the cool thing about KBOE is we are owned by a family that was originally based in Oskaloosa, and they own Mahaska Bottling in Oskaloosa, but they also happen to own KBOE. So we are not owned by some big corporate conglomerate that's going to tell me what to do.
No way.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I have so much freedom in what I'm doing.
Oh, that is so cool.
Some big stations, they aren't able to do what I'm doing simply because they can't. They aren't allowed. So I'm taking full advantage of the opportunity to be able to feature whoever I want and pretty much whenever I want.
That is absolutely. I had no clue that you guys were.
Yeah, independently owned.
Yeah, I mean, every radio station, it seems like, is owned by like 3 different companies, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty wild. Especially when you, like, I'm from Fort Dodge area. I'm not 100% sure, but I think almost all of those are under the same umbrella now. But there used to be like 5 radio stations in Fort Dodge, and now they're all, a cookie cutter of something that a big company thinks.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, it's a great advantage for KBOE.
That's wild. So do you get to let's compare what you're doing to what other radio DJs are doing then just a little bit. So do you have the ability to choose what songs you want to play when and like all of that, or do you have stuff that's kind of like prefabricated for you, or is it something you're always kind of culling the herd and bringing new stuff in and shuffling it out?
The way it works is our music, what we call music logs, which is what all the music for the next day is laid out for us. And I'm picking what is in that music that it chooses from. So it spits it out every day. Now, if I want to rearrange or, do whatever, I have the ability to do that. And then as far as my playlist, like, of course you have all the older songs that you mix in, but all of the current songs that I'm playing, I'm choosing my playlist each week, and it has 60 songs that's rotating. Some are in what you call heavy rotation down to light rotation. And I also have a specific Iowa category. If you listen to KBOE, you're most likely going to hear an Iowa country song, probably at about 10 till the hour or quarter till, somewhere in there, because that's the way it's programmed in. So all of the Iowa artists with quality recordings are getting fair and equal rotation in that spot.
That is why. That's so cool. So it's not like you're just featuring these people on Friday and just being like, thanks guys, good luck.
Yeah.
Like,
See ya.
Yep. See somebody else next Friday and everybody can high five me again on Friday. That's wild. So you're essentially playing 24 artists. Is that for the whole day? So it'd be like,
if it gets played, sometimes it doesn't get played within the hour, but most likely probably at least 17 to 18 Iowa songs are getting played each day.
That is wild. That is so wild.
And if people are listening, they're like, oh, I can go record something, in my basement and it's going to sound like crap and it's going to get radio airplay. I'll tell you that it won't.
Yeah.
It has to be quality.
Yeah.
It has to be radio ready.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that. It's not like I've fallen victim to it, but I know some people who are radio DJs, and they're like, we get sent a lot of stuff, and
yes,
you kind of got to go through it, and it's like, oh,
yes.
But I also understand because I've tried to, like you said, record stuff in my own basement. Some people can pull it off, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, it's crazy.
Quality stuff comes from basements.
but yeah, I mean, like the stuff I was like, man, this ain't gonna make it on the radio. I'd have to pay somebody. So like, I get it. It's a tough pill to swallow to actually pay someone or to go get a good recording, but it's totally worth it.
And I hate to do that's a sucky part of my job is every once in a while having to tell people no, but hopefully it makes them be better and do better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're like, that's one of the things I like about you're a radio DJ, you're on the radio every day, I guess 5 days a week. So people, feel like they get to know you and things like that. So you probably have some way to be diplomatic with your candor, as instead of just being
Yes.
like, no, your song stinks, or so you're not just like go away, but it's like people are, probably just like real nice to these people, like this is actually a really good song, but unfortunately it needs to, whatever, this, that, and the
Yes,
other
yeah.
radio jargon, recording jargon.
Yeah, I tend to give nice reviews and try to point out what needs fixed and what's good.
So along with interviewing people once a week and playing Iowa artists every single day that you're there, do you have any other, like, I feel like you would be one of those people that just is like a jack of all trades. Do you review music too at all, or?
Well, I am music director for the radio station. What that entails is you're probably familiar with Billboard magazine.
Yeah.
And all the Billboard charts, the top 40 and whatever, top 200 albums. I report and see all the major stations in America are reporting their playlists each week to Billboard. That's how they get their numbers. So what I do it's kind of on a smaller level is there's a place called musicrow.com, which is for small market stations, and they have their own rating system. They have their own top 40 and their top 80. So small town radio stations like Oskaloosa, KBOE, I don't know, it's between 50 and 100. It kind of moves a little bit every once in a while. 50 to 100 stations are reporting their playlists each week to Music Row. And so it's for small town stations, small market stations, and it's a little bit more independent music friendly as well. So, we're playing all the big names like, the Luke Combs, the Luke Bryan, Thomas Rhett, but we're also playing some completely unknown people that aren't getting airplay in like Des Moines or the Cedar Rapids markets or someplace like that. So
I had no clue Music Row was actually a thing. I kind of knew there was something about like reporting your playlists to, the charts and things like that. I knew there was something with that, but I didn't know that there was like another option, like another place that's actually making a chart.
Yeah. So like when artists come out and I've helped Iowa artists, that do radio stuff. I've tried to point them in the right direction as far as what promoters to hire if they want to get into the radio thing, because radio is not cheap. And there are a lot of snakes out there in the promotion world. A lot of people that'll just take money and not do anything for you. So I've tried to help and point people in the right direction as far as promoters and stuff like that, and how to even get on the radio to begin with, because there is a little bit of a process that probably isn't interesting to the listeners right now. But yeah, and I'm kind of lost track of where I was going with that. But yeah, there's a lot to radio, and there's a lot to doing it on the independent side.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get like played on the radio, it's not terribly hard. If you're like, you find a local station, like, I'm sure they can just reach out to you and figure out the proper channel to submit a song to you and start it that way. But if you want to get anything bigger than that, you need like a promotional team behind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay a few $1,000s to even do it on any sort of national level.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, I tried to go through and just pick like concentric circles around where I live with radio stations and just be like peppering them with, hey, do you want to play my new album from my punk band or whatever, And the farther out you got, the more no responses and no, just flat out no's you got. So. It's not always easy, like you said. The farther out you get away from your local stations, it's not always as easy. But I can't remember. I think I sent emails to like 50-ish stations, and I ended up on like 12 or 13 after it was all said and done, which is still cool. But it took like a whole afternoon of research just to get played on 13 stations or whatever. And I'm not even in the rotation on some of them anymore, and it's whatever because it's not new music. Yeah. But it's still kind of cool that people ended up playing it and stuff like that. So
oh sure, yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as you. We were talking before we went on the air that a few years ago I was in a rock band, a Christian rock band called Piercing the Darkness, which we had recorded a couple of albums. So and we sent stuff out to Christian rock radio, which ended up getting airplay. So I kind of get it from both perspectives, from the radio side and from the artist side of what they're going up against.
That's something else that's really important is, I mean, you bring it up now, you're an artist. So you're an artist. So you actually get to see this from both sides of the coin, that's something that most radio DJs and most artists would never get. So like the artists, most of us we're not on the radio 24/7, and most DJs aren't necessarily artists. So it's kind of crazy that you get this perspective from both sides that most people would never get. So you kind of know, you're almost like this person that's like a safe passage between the two, you know? It's like you can help lead people from one to the next.
And that's what I've been trying to do too, is just be that connection for some people, especially here in Iowa, to make it to that next level and make it onto the radio.
That's so wild. That's so cool. I mean, I guess it's crazy if I'm saying this, 30 minutes in, but you and I didn't know each other before this podcast, and the amount of interaction we had was like 10 messages, So, but I was like, this guy's, you could tell you're a good guy just from watching you online, and listening to you on the radio and seeing the interviews you do with people. And it's kind of, I'm like kind of mind blown, but at the same time, I'm like, this, go figure. This guy's a cool dude, like it's, I'm not trying to just like, toot toot for you or whatever, but it's hey man, when it's due, toot toot.
But as Arn Anderson says, toot toot.
Oh my gosh.
We'll get into some wrestling talk here in a bit.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. So let me ask you this. This is just a hypothetical situation, and this is no bearing on anything. We're not leading into anything. I'm not trying to start anything. But if you ever had to leave KBOE, could you see yourself jumping over to a big box radio station and then just trying your best to fit what they asked you to do?
At this point, it would be hard to do something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, depending on the paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, you said you worked sales though too. So
yeah,
you're not just radio DJ only guy.
Yeah. I've done basically the only thing that I have not done at KBOE is be the engineer, the really smart guy. But otherwise, I've done pretty much everything else at the radio station. That it doesn't have to be quite so smart.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely I feel like I'm fairly intelligent when it comes to computers and basic stuff. Like basic stuff, I can figure it all out. But when you stand there next to like a giant rack of servers, you're like, whew, glad I'm not running this.
Yeah, not it.
That is absolutely.
But I don't know if a big city, if a big market came knocking, what I would do, because my wife and I have lived in our small town pretty much all of our lives, so it would take something special to uproot that.
You never know. You might end up somewhere like WKRP Cincinnati.
There you go.
Had to bring it up at least once.
I could be the next Dr. Johnny Fever.
Oh my gosh.
Or Venus Flight. Or Les Nessman.
Les Nessman. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you want to be
Les Nessman.
I don't know if you want to be Les Nessman though. Do you?
Or Herb.
Report on the turkey drop.
Yeah, really.
Oh my gosh. For people that don't know, we're talking about a show from the 70s?
Yeah.
So WKRP in Cincinnati. Go look it up. It's hilarious. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, really. But so let me ask you about social media. How do you feel that social media has helped you out? Because, like you said, you've been at KBOE for over 20 years. So we're going to say pre-social media, pre-big internet influence.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel that social media has helped you out in this time where people are listening to the radio on the internet and everything's on the internet?
Yeah. No, I mean, if anything, if you start talking about brands or branding, like that type of stuff, it has definitely expanded my brand. If I myself am a brand, I guess it would have expanded that to more of a national, and, obviously people can listen internationally as well. But, like I said earlier, I mean, it's kind of put us out there for not just this section of the state. It's for all of Iowa now. It's for, whoever wants to listen in. When you talk about independent country artists, they have super loyal fan bases. So when I feature an independent artist from wherever, Georgia or Nashville or the Carolinas, their people are tuning in online or watching the Facebook Lives that we're doing. And so we're getting some national exposure. So, I mean, you go from just kind of being like the unknown person on the radio in Southeast Iowa, only known to Southeast Iowa, to being known, quite a ways out.
Yeah, I don't have the statistics up here And I don't want to make you brag it up, but do you know how many Facebook followers you have on your Facebook page?
I do know, because I'm right on the verge of 25,000.
That's
So
what
go hit the like button.
That's what I saw. Oh my gosh, you are absolutely crushing it out there.
But that's all, and I'll give credit where credit's due. It's all because of the artists that I feature. It has, and it has nothing to do with me as a person. It has everything to do with the artists that I'm featuring and that I'm putting on my Facebook page that gets the response.
But I mean, I feel the same way. Whenever I get any sort of like traction or recognition for doing the podcast here, it's like the podcast is its own thing. I'm just somehow like the guy that's like the fourth wall for everyone, you know? And all of the likes that Audible Farm has is 100% because of the guests that are on here. Nobody would like it if it was just me talking, you know? But it's 25,000 is an absolute insane number for, and I'm not trying to call you out, but small town radio. It's, it's mind blowing.
And I don't know if you ever see there on Facebook pages, like you can get the insights, the numbers on people that are interacting or, you know, whatever. But you can also get that information for other, like I can get it for other radio stations. Mm-hmm. And the number of interactions and the number of activity on my page rivals that of just about anybody in the state of Iowa as far as country radio station Facebook pages. So
that's so crazy too.
You're
like competing with Des Moines and stuff like that.
They don't know it, but they have no idea that I'm competing with them. But
oh my gosh, that is so hilarious. And I mean, that's something you're doing internally, but it's also benefiting you, you know, I guess as a businessman and benefiting the radio station, and it ultimately it also benefits everyone that comes on your show, you know, subsequently. You know, if anybody that keeps coming on, they drag more fans to your show. Those people are like, I'm going to pay attention to this because somebody else I might know will come on here. Every now and then they might tune in and find somebody they've never heard of and be like, this person's cool, you know. Mm-hmm. So it ends up being this thing that's just, it's almost like snowballing now. 25,000, holy cow.
Yeah. When I first started, I hit 5,000 probably within the first year, but then after that it's just, with the different, like the New Music Challenge that I was talking about, with the Buzz Cut, with the different online Facebook tournaments that I've done, it's just kind of like you said, snowballed.
That's wild. I can't believe that. I mean, I think of 1,500 or something on Audible Farm, which is pretty wild for just, you know, internet guy or whatever. And but dude, that's nuts. You're out there just doing the work, and it's showing. Like it shows in the great guests that you end up bringing in. It shows in the quality of what you have going on. Because like I said, you can listen on the radio and it's high quality because it's radio. You know, it's not, like you said, not Skyping it in. It's not somebody like buffering while they're trying to sing a note. That'd be horrible.
I was going to say another thing that has brought attention to us is, you know, independent artists go out on radio tours. And so, like, if you've watched my Facebook page the last few weeks, I've had, I think, 6 artists within 2 weeks' time. That includes the Iowa artists, but 6 overall artists in the studio doing interviews and doing Facebook live streams with me. So that helps as well, because you get those independent, like I said, independent artists have that fan base, have their own individual fan bases, and then it just all kind of rolls together.
I feel like your Facebook Lives have also added a new dynamic to this that it just makes it so much more enjoyable. You can actually watch instead of just listening.
Yeah.
You know? It's great.
It's fun to interact during the commercial breaks on the radio. We stay live, and we always do some bonus stuff while we're on commercials on the radio. We just do like a bonus song or interact with the people that are watching too. So that's a fun aspect of it. That
is super cool. And I know there are some stations out there that do that, and they try to get their DJs to do things like that, but you're easily one of the most consistent that's done that. I'm not trying to be like, hey, but you're always there, man. And I feel like that is also some of it is having consistency, you know, every single week you're always doing it.
Yep. Same time, same bat station, same bat time.
So let's talk about this Christian rock band you were in a little bit. So you were telling me that you had CDs, you played shows all around Iowa, radio stations. I mean, all the way like out to, you played prisons like Johnny Cash did, so I want to hear about this.
All right. So yeah, I was in a band called Piercing the Darkness. We were Christian rock. Think like Metallica meets Sunday Morning. Figure that one. That's another weird aspect of this is you get the friendly country radio DJ that likes to rock out to Metallica and sing like James Hetfield. So figure that one out.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
And again, you go back to the beginning of this where I was an introvert, and didn't sing a note in high school.
That's so wild. That's so wild.
But yeah, we got together. I think it was 2007 when the band originally formed, and we went about 11 years and recorded a couple of CDs and like I said, had put stuff out to radio, Christian radio, and we literally got played all over the world. When we went through the channels that we did, one of the very first radio stations to get back to me, because my email was on the information that had gone out, was a guy from Australia, and starting his email by saying, "Good day, mate." So immediately we were getting airplay in Australia on our first single that we had sent out. So that was pretty mind blowing, and very humbling as well, because who would have thought a little band from Southeast Iowa could get worldwide airplay?
Yeah, no kidding. That's wild though. Oh.
Yeah, so we did that. We played. We started off just playing like church events only, since we were a Christian band. But then we expanded it out into public events and county fairs. We played up at the state fair numerous times on some of the free stages up there, and then did festivals around the state. We didn't really venture out of the state all that much, but kind of with all of us having day jobs and real jobs, we couldn't get too far away. But played probably the most neatest gigs that we did were in the prisons. We played 3 different prisons in the state of Iowa, the Newton facility being the one that we played the most. And that was a real eye-opening experience.
Oh yeah, that'd be mind-blowing.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's like a movie, like a scene in a movie, and I almost feel like what you probably went and saw was almost just like you thought it would be in the movies. Was it? What the setup that we had in every place, in every prison that we played, was they have a gym, and we would set up in the gym, and the sound quality was horrible because it was bouncing off the cement gym walls. But the prison, usually we would get about anywhere from 100 to 200 prisoners in the gym. And these were the guys and gals that had been on good behavior. They weren't letting the roughest of the rough in there to come in and possibly do something bad, but they were letting the people that had been on good behavior come in. It was kind of a reward for them. But going into the prison, you would have to send in a list of absolutely every single item that you were bringing into the prison, down to guitar picks and guitar strings. They wanted to know everything that you were bringing in, and then they would check that list when you got there. They would go through absolutely everything that we had, and if there's anything that was not on the list that we had, it was not going in. So they were very particular about that. And same as going out, when you were done with the concert, checking out, they would again the staff would check everything that you were bringing with you out, and making sure that maybe somehow one of the prisoners had snuck you something to take out or whatever. They were making sure that wasn't going on. They were making sure that we weren't leaving anything behind that could possibly be used as a weapon or whatever. Because a guitar string in the wrong hands could potentially be a pretty hazardous weapon. Woo! Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, just about anything on a guitar could be. I mean,
yeah.
They could start taking like just some of the hardware off of it, or a couple screws here and there or something. Yeah. You never know what they could, but that is crazy. I guess I never even thought about that part of it. I mean,
yeah,
I just thought
that was the most intense part.
Yeah.
Was going in and out. But once you get in there, And, the first time that we did a prison gig, it was very, very nerve-wracking because we didn't know what to expect. We're going into this prison. You got the circled barbed wire at the top of the fences, and you're thinking, holy crap, what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
But you get in there, and you get 200 prisoners rocking out with you and having a great time and singing along with you to songs that they know. I mean, it's life-changing for them and us.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to think like, I mean, everyone's there for a different reason, but you got to think that'd be such a nice reprieve from the everyday life that they probably have, just to be able to go out there and listen to a concert,
Yeah. I mean, we had, although we were a Christian band, I mean, we had people of all religions that you could think of listening to us at one point or the other, just because they wanted to break the monotony of what they were doing. We could have been singing about anything probably, and as long as it was somewhat entertaining, they were happy to be there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think anything this side of Yoko Ono would probably be acceptable at that rate,
But the cool thing is, as being a Christian, is it was the ability then to kind of be a witness to those different people. I mean, we played up at Oakdale in Iowa City area. And they have some pretty hardened criminals up there. I mean, murderers and some people that you would know from the news. And they were also in attendance at times. So, yeah, it was quite the variety of people that we got to perform for.
Did you ever get the opportunity to speak to any of these people, or was it just? Nice.
Yeah, I mean, when we were in there, we usually made an effort to before and afterwards to shake hands with everybody that was coming in and going out, because
cool.
I mean, it was that close. I mean, there was nothing stopping them from doing whatever they wanted to, but they were all on good behavior, and it always worked out really nice.
No chicken wire, no nothing.
No, it was just us and them.
That's wild. I mean,
usually a guard or two, just in case.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes the news is kind of just like made us all just like expect the worst and hope for the best. But I wouldn't expect anything bad to happen. Everything should be pretty well locked down and everything should be good to go for you. And I would have been super nervous though too, my first time going in to do anything like that. I would have just sweating bullets the whole way in, sweating bullets the whole way out. Maybe they'll keep me. I don't know.
That was always the joke. People were wondering if we would get out, or if they would let us out.
You guys rock too hard. We're gonna have you stay another night. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Well, let's see. What do we got here? We're about 45 minutes in. I feel like we've touched pretty decently on your show on KBOE. It's the Iowa Country Artist of the Week. It's 11:30 a.m. on Fridays. If people want to contact you and maybe try their best to be one of the Country Artists of the Week, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
You can find me on, my Facebook page, which is just Steve Shettler, KBOE. On Facebook, you can get a hold of me there, or my email address is on the radio station's website, or you can, as is the radio station phone number, just the contact information there at the kboeradio.com would probably be the best way to go. And then, we can get things set up from there.
Nice. That's awesome. So if anybody's looking for that, I will drop at least a link to your Facebook profile or your Facebook page in the description section down below. So
you got to hit that 25,000 mark.
Yes.
I need like 15 more likes.
That's it? Like 50? Well, I added at least one today, maybe two, because I liked you with a couple pages. So, anything I can do to help.
There you go.
But it's crazy, too, to know that you know both the plight of the musician as well as you lead the life of a DJ, to know that you've been out there and played these crazy cool shows, once in a lifetime shows that you actually got to do multiple times in your life,
Yes.
That's so sweet.
And I would also say, if we still have people listening at this time, that if you're an artist and you have the opportunity to play in a prison, you need to do it. It is so life-changing for you, and it's so beneficial for the prisoners as well. If you're into that type of thing, because it's a really good thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely. If anybody ever offered it to me, I would definitely lean yes before no, just to say I did it, at least. It's so crazy. I mean, you have such a cool story already, but Well, here's something crazy. I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast have probably at one point in time seen a professional wrestler or possibly a promoter slide through the podcast every now and then. About 10 years ago, I mean, I was going to wrestling shows 50 plus a year easily. I mean, it was nonstop. I don't know how you and I did not run into one another at a show.
We may have.
We might have been at a Hall of Fame show together. We might have been somewhere together. But here I come to find out that you're a really big pro wrestling fan, and you might have actually had something to do with the early stages of Impact Pro Wrestling in Iowa, which was right in my backyard for a long time.
Yeah, I was when Impact Pro Wrestling started. Troy Peterson and I, you know Troy, don't you?
Yep, he's been on the podcast actually once.
Yeah. Troy and I are longtime friends. We actually got hooked up through pro wrestling. The story with Troy and I is he was working in Oskaloosa as a furniture store manager, and he was coming out to the radio station to record a radio ad, and his sales rep introduced us because she knew I liked wrestling. And we hit it off immediately. And then Troy was gearing up to do his very first wrestling show in Oskaloosa and asked me to be his ring announcer. So that's how we started our relationship. From there, I hung posters with Troy. I promoted with Troy. I helped book shows, especially in Delta, Iowa, when we had the big town of Delta, Iowa, the Delta Dome.
The Delta Dome.
Yeah, it was rocking and rolling. So, and I even don't mess with me because I am undefeated. I am 1-0 in the wrestling ring.
Oh, no way. You've been in the ring. I'm so jealous.
In a tag team match.
I'm so jealous. I don't care if you never even got tagged in. I am jealous, man. Please tell me you got in there, though.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is, if you ever see the video, it was me and Big Dog Barber against AJ Smooth and Mick Mayhem.
A dastardly AJ Smooth.
Yes, yeah. I always give him a hard time whenever I see him. But I got up. Mick Mayhem was in the corner, and I was doing the spot where I climb up on the second turnbuckle and give the 10 punches. Mm-hmm. Well, after the 9th punch, I looked to the crowd, and I started swinging my arm around, getting them all jacked up, and I about fell down off the turnbuckles before I could deliver the 10th punch. But thankfully, I held on. Thankfully, I got that 10th punch in.
Dude, that is classic. Oh, my gosh. Believe it or not, Troy coming to the county fair here in my hometown of Humboldt, Iowa, was the first interaction I had with independent wrestling. And he got the sheriff in town involved, and him and AJ Smooth got into it and started smack talking each other. And oh my gosh, I was hooked from there on out. It was just like, what is this? And it's like, this is independent wrestling, bud. This is a little bit different than what you're going to see on TV. So it's tons of fun going to those shows, being that close to the wrestlers or that close to the other fans, or to be able to interact from, 10 rows back and know they're going to hear you still. And
and the cool thing is, you never know which of these guys that you're watching at these small shows with maybe 50 people in attendance, which of these guys is going to end up being a superstar on the national or international level. Because we had Austin Aries with us, 20 years ago when he was a nobody in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And of course he took off and did all sorts of stuff. Seth Rollins, who was Tyler Black. Don't quote me on this, but I think his first paid pro wrestling match was in Delta, Iowa. So we can kind of claim that as well. I'll claim it at least. And I was the ring announcer.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of, you hear the cliche, you go to the indie shows because you never know who's gonna. But dude, I've seen a lot of people that ended up making it on TV in some capacity or another. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, Adam Pearce wasn't local or anything, but he's on TV all the time now, and I used to go watch him, a couple times a year when he'd come through. So
he's a Midwest guy.
Yep. I mean, it is what it is. So it's totally a thing. So, and I loved going to wrestling shows, and you're talking about like IPW back in. I almost would call it like the golden era of IPW. Yeah. Like, I mean, they were
Humane Society.
Dude, you guys were crushing it back then from like Minnesota down to the Delta Dome and back. I mean, it was you were doing shows all over the place. You were bringing in all sorts of wrestlers that ended up as IPW changed over the years and started their training facility and kind of breeding a lot of the wrestlers out of that, training them out of the breeding. Jesus. Oh my gosh.
What's going on there?
What's going on over there, Troy?
Facility.
Oh my gosh. No, but like as they changed a little bit, they quit bringing in all these outside wrestlers, but a lot of the wrestlers you guys were bringing in were the people who ended up becoming like the biggest names in like these guys are the biggest guys in Minnesota now, and these guys are the biggest guys in Nebraska, and these guys are the biggest guys in Kansas and Missouri, so you guys back then were just bringing in all sorts of awesome wrestlers, like, and not that they're not now, but it's just one of those things. I love to look back at all of those ads that Troy, I mean, he still has all of the flyers for all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the training facilities, like they used to do shows out of them when the training facility was in Algona. So I would go up there and watch shows, and you'd see all these cool old posters, and Johnny Fitness is there, and I don't know, the whole thing. It just brought back a lot of nostalgia, especially when you said the Delta Dome. I was just like, oh no way.
Yep, that's right in my backyard. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Everybody knew who I was. I mean, we would, if you haven't seen the Delta Dome and what we're talking about, it should be on the historical list here in the state of Iowa. Because it's quite the facility.
Oh my gosh. But I don't know. I feel like wrestling definitely lends itself to that whole like nostalgia of the past. It's almost like you can zhuzh it up a little bit, when you tell it, when you're regaling about the story.
Back in the old day.
Exactly. I remember a big one for that was like when I would be like watching some pro wrestling on TV, like let's just say it's WWE, and they'd be like, oh, here's this highlight package from like Razor Ramon and so from back in like 95. And you're like, cool. And then you go watch the match and you're like, this match is, I mean, it's good, but it's kind of a snoozer. But when they put all the highlights together, you're like, man, this is amazing, but and those wrestling guys, they all have to hang out and spend so much time together and on the road, and they're almost like a band kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And I was going to say one more interesting story from the Delta Dome.
Let's hear
just
it.
to give you kind of a feel of what it's like. Is we had a scaffold match at the Delta Dome.
Oh my gosh!
I'm trying to think who was involved. Chance Cordova, Devin Carter against, I can't remember. It might have been Smooth and Mayhem. Don't quote me on that. But the finish of the match was, two of the guys were up on top of the scaffold near the ceiling of the building. And the finish was that, I can't remember who, but they grabbed a handful of asbestos from the top of the ceiling, shoved it in the guy's face. Oh, it was Chance Cordova who did it, because then he took a huge bump off the scaffold with a face full of asbestos. And the crowd went crazy.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh, that is so nuts. Oh, it's so crazy. I absolutely love independent pro wrestling because nothing is off limits. Nothing is off limits. Like,
you can get away with a lot.
IPW was known also for like fans bring the weapons battle royals and things like that. So like that's one where you can bring in your own stuff, and it was super fun because you'd go to shows, and I've been to the fans bring the weapons battle royals a few times, and you end up with the people that are just, they're bringing in like all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, oh, here's a sheet of glass, and it's like, we're not going to use this, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, like you'd find like the little kids and they'd bring in a stick, and it's like, oh, that's cute. They brought a stick in, and then Troy would be sure to put it in the bucket and someone would use it. And the kid would freak out that somebody used a stick,
Using my stick.
I got really big into collecting old computers on junk days, and then just like bringing in all like the keyboards.
Yeah,
and so you
those
take
are good weapons.
Yeah, you get smacked once with a computer keyboard, and all the keys go flying. Yep. Unfortunately, it ends up just shrapnel on the ground to anyone that wants to take a bump afterwards. But the funniest thing I ever saw in a fans bring the weapons battle royal was somebody brought in a Stone Cold Steve Austin foam finger, and I'll just describe it like this: it's like your number one finger, but Stone Cold would tell people they're number one with a different finger.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, right? And somebody comes out with this thing, and they find it, and they just start poking people in the eye with this giant foam finger on. And the people were selling it like they got like hit by a truck, like they were shot or something. It was like, oh, this is so hilarious. And of course, like after everybody gets poked in the eye and takes a huge bump, and some people are bumping way over the top rope and stuff, but He ends up just starts doing stone cold stunners to everyone, and it's like, why is this so entertaining? And I don't know, but dude, pro wrestling, it's something else, you know. And I mean, you're even wearing a pro wrestling shirt. I don't have one on now, but I mean, I even made it mock up like Audible Farm, like NWO style shirts for a while.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I made a limited run, and what's there is there for now, I guess. I don't think I'm gonna order anymore. I don't really want to get sued by Vince, you know. He's a little busy right now, but
gimmick infringement.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean I knew once I saw you were a pro wrestling fan too, I was just like, oh, we're in, and then I kind of knew that you knew Troy, so it was like, oh, we got to hear some stories. And I mean, I'm sure I could just sit down and talk. I mean, we've got an hour in already, and I could just sit down and talk with you for another hour about pro wrestling stories. But I think we'll give the fans and the listeners a break.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime.
We'll definitely have. Oh my gosh, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Let's see if we got anything on my list that I haven't talked about. I'm just going to say it again. Iowa Country Artist of the Week, 11:30 a.m. on Fridays on KBOE. That's 104.9 FM, or just go on the internet and listen to it. I'll put a link down below to KBOE so you guys know where to find it.
Okay.
And I'll also put a link to your Facebook page down below. Anything else you want me to link up down there?
I think that's about it.
Those are the two big ones. I know your guys' website at KBOE is real easy to go around to. It's not like all convoluted and weird, so it's real easy. Once you find the website, it's super easy to find everything you need to find on there.
Yeah.
So high five whoever's doing the web design there, because like I said, radio stations seem to be notorious for really, really busy websites.
Yeah, ours is pretty easy to navigate.
Yes. Steve, all I got to say is thank you. Thank you for taking a shot in the dark and sitting down with me and talking to me for an hour, even though we didn't really know each other.
Well, we do now.
We do now.
I think we're best friends now.
Basically. If you guys want to be friends with Steve, hit him up. If you guys make country music and you live in Iowa, Steve might be one of your new best friends.
Yes.
Steve, don't go away. Thank you very much for joining me.
All righty.
It's amazing to know that I've done 193 of these episodes, and I've interviewed so many people from across the state that are making music, and then you run into somebody like Steve, who has been doing something just like I'm doing, except more in depth, and he's picking country artists only, and he's absolutely crushing it. Somehow he's finding new musicians to interview each and every week, it seems like. Steve, hats off. Steve, hats off, man. It's mind-blowing that you're able to do what you're doing. You're putting in a lot of really hard work, and this episode was full of insight, and Steve knows a lot of the ins and outs of the radio game, the music game, and everything in between, coming down to production value and where to have your music played and how to help people out and get their music played on different stations, how to report your music and things like that. So it's super cool to have people like Steve around in the music scene helping out the way that he does. If you guys are anything in the country music genre, Steve might be one of your new best friends. I would definitely suggest getting a hold of him and at least saying hi, because he's got an amazing show down there. Like I said, I've seen it a handful of times. People from my area and people that I've had on my podcast have been on there before. So it's really amazing to know that they can go on there, have a conversation with Steve, play a few tunes, including songs live on the radio, and then go about the rest of their day. So it's really cool. He gives them a great opportunity to do some great things. And Steve's a really great guy. It was really cool to sit down and talk with him. Like I said, morning DJ on KBOE. It was cool to hear about KBOE and how they differ from other radio stations, and how he kind of transitioned to where he was at. And just such a cool story and such a cool dude. So thank you very much, Steve, for sitting down and talking with us today. I really appreciate it, man. If you guys are looking for any of Steve's links, I'll pop them down below. There's going to be a link to his Facebook page. Give it a like. Hopefully we can push him over the 25,000 likes. 25,000 likes. That's another proof is in the pudding, people. If 25,000 people like your Facebook page, it's probably not an accident. So check them out on Facebook. Otherwise, I will have a link down below to KBOE as well if you guys want to go check them out online there. Hats off once again to Steve. Great guest. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day and joining me. If you guys are looking for Audible Farm links, they're down below Steve's links. You can check those out. It's the Audible Farm shop. You can shop Audible Farm merch. Check out anything Audible Farm. We got shirts and stickers and keychains and things of that nature. So check out the shop. Otherwise, you guys can check out Audible Farm on Patreon, video versions of the podcast. It costs $1 a month. That's only $12 a year. You can watch the video versions of this podcast, or you can just subscribe and give me $1 a year, and as a way to say thank you for putting out all this awesome content. I'm totally kidding. Watch those videos if you guys are Patreon subscribers. There's some people out there that watch them, and hats off to you guys. If you guys like the video clips, you will love the Patreon versions. It's a longer version of the video clips, and it's a great way to watch these things. It kind of helps me feel like I'm interacting with people, because sometimes I'll go through and I'll watch the Patreon videos myself, and I gotta close one eye so I don't have to look at myself the whole time. But it's a pretty good time. It's a pretty good time. $1 a month Patreon. There's a link down below for that. Otherwise, everything else is at audiblefarm.com. Don't forget to rate us, leave a review, subscribe wherever you're at. If you're listening to this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening anywhere else, there should be a way to favorite the podcast or leave us a review of some sort. 5 stars, 1 stars. Let us hear it. Let us hear what's going on. Great guest this week. Great guests coming up. I'm finally starting to get ahead of schedule. Again, it's taken me a while, as you guys have known, but I'm finally getting some guests to be able to have some free time, and it's weird. It's weird. Summertime's tough to make schedules work. Everybody's got something going on, so I understand it. But thank you guys for listening each and every week. I'm out. We'll see you next week. Peace.